Hello, this is Veterans News, a production of the United Veterans Organization of Nassau County. My name is Ed Wallman. I'd like to thank Altice USA for providing the training for our crew and for the use of their studio facilities here in Hauppauge. This show is broadcast Tuesday nights at 7:30 on Channel 20 and in Nassau and Suffolk counties and in the state of New Hampshire. In fact, we're shown on more public access channels than I even knew existed. I'd like to say hello to our viewers in Suffolk County because this is a relatively new show to them. We're looking for a co-host, by the way, somebody who will add a Suffolk County viewpoint to our show. So if you know someone who would like to be a co-host on Veterans News, please have them contact us on the email veteransnewsuvo@gmail.com. That's veteransnewsuvo@gmail.com. I'd like to thank our crew. On camera 1, we have Jim Hessler. Hi, Jim. Okay. On camera 2, Al Zabrowski, and on camera 3, Loretta DeBrino. Our technical director today is Robert Lane. Our floor manager and my house manager is Beverly Allman, and our director is Pat Galino. Pat, welcome back. By the way, if you'd like to ask me any questions or comments about the show, please email me at veteransnewsuvo@gmail.com. Our guest today is Mike Pankowski.
Correct.
Okay. Mike is the commander of the Suffolk County American Legion. I said that right. The Suffolk County American Legion. And the president of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Steve Bonom. Steve, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll talk to our guest in a few minutes, but first, here's the names of the veterans who died recently. Alan Lawrence was a proud Navy veteran. Robert Spencer, a proud veteran of the Army Air Corps during World War II. A second cousin to my wife, Joseph Radigan, a World War II veteran of the Italian campaign. Herbert Joachim, a Korean War veteran of the Navy. Donald B. Lanka, a U.S. Navy veteran who fought during World War II. Charles Wagner, a World War II Army veteran. Frank Vicaccio, a World War I Navy veteran. John Walsh, drafted into the Army and assigned to an air base in Alaska. James Wayne, a Navy veteran who served in the Korean War and was a member of the VFW in Franklin Square. Alexander McKay served in the U.S. Coast Guard. Thomas Triboli was a proud Air Force veteran of the Korean War. Thomas Spey, a proud Navy veteran and a member of the American Legion and the VFW. Thomas McNally served 4 years in the Navy in World War II. Dominic Feeney was a Purple Heart recipient of the Army who served during the Korean War. Murray Seaman, a veteran of North Africa, Italy, and France during World War II. Sid Parkin was a Bronze Star recipient from World War II. Rocco Savino was also an Army veteran of World War II, and Gregory Dennis, a Navy veteran of World War II. Joseph Grace was a sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps who spent 4 years in the Asiatic Pacific area. If you know a deceased veteran that you would like to hear his name mentioned on this part of the show, just email me, please, at veteransnewsuvo@gmail.com. That's the end of our Veterans News. Now it's time for our guests. Mike, how are you?
Very good.
Okay.
Nice to be here, Ed. Thank you.
Steve, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, first tell me what you did in the Navy.
Okay, I joined the Navy in 1966. My first duty station was Class A school for cooks and bakers.
66.
1966.
All right, that was 3 years before me.
Okay. And
That makes you older than me.
quite a bit.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad to have somebody older for a change.
My first duty was Cooks and Baker School in San Diego, and I spent 4 months there. And I graduated tops of my class, so I thought they told me I would get a choice of duty stations.
Okay, you went to Baker School.
Yes.
All right.
And,
You had some baking in your background before you went into the service?
I grew up in the restaurant business. My father was one of the owners of a large diner in Queens, the Scobie Diner.
So in '66, you weren't faced with, you had to join the service, did you? Was the draft?
Well,
still
they
in
were
effect?
starting to draft.
They were.
And I said I always wanted to go into the Navy, and I put my name on an application and I joined.
Okay.
And like I said, I went to Cooks and Baker School, and I put in for duty in France and Italy and Brooklyn Navy Yard and everything on the East Coast.
Right.
And my first duty station happened to be the USS Hancock, which was an attack carrier in Vietnam.
Really?
So I spent most of my enlisted time on the USS Hancock. I was ship's company. I did 3 cruises in Gulf of Tonkin.
What's a cruise?
Cruise consisted of 6 months, and our duty station was Yankee Station, and we launched aircraft into North Vietnam during that time.
You were on 3 cruises,
Yes.
6 months at a time?
Yes, we did 6 months, came back to the States, then did 3 months of sea trials, and then ended up back on Yankee Station for another 6 months. And this rotated every 6 months for 3 years that I
Wow.
spent on a ship. And I was ship's company, and it was rewarding and stressful.
Yeah.
Since I ran the bake shop feeding over 3,000 men, and everything from cookies to baking bread to anything for desserts, we did in the bake shop.
What was your rank?
I was E5,
E5?
second class petty officer, and I moved up pretty quick into second class petty officer, and I took over the bake shop.
Wow.
And we fed 23 hours a day while the time we were on the line.
You were on an aircraft carrier. The only aircraft carrier I was ever on was a museum, a World War II museum, the Intrepid.
Intrepid.
Yeah, the facilities on the Intrepid were rather small. Were they that small for you, or you had much larger?
We were refitted in '67. During the 6 month we came off the line, we went into dry dock in San Francisco, and we were refitted. All our galleys and everything was redone, and full air conditioning in our berthing areas, and so it was pretty modern. They worked on a flight deck. They redid the flight deck.
Yeah.
And it became pretty self-sufficient. It was roomy. It was an Essex class carrier.
Yeah.
Which is one of the larger
Essex class?
Essex class.
Yeah.
We were 998 feet long, and like I said, we were launching aircraft 23
Yeah.
hours a day.
I'll ask you about the aircraft you were launching in a minute. Mike, you were also in the Navy.
That's correct. I joined in 1979, and after 2 years of training, I was assigned to the USS Jacksonville.
2 years of training?
2 years of training, because I was trained to be a nuclear plane operator. So after 2 years of training,
How many years did you spend in the Navy?
a total of 10.
10 years? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I was assigned to the USS Jacksonville, a fast attack submarine. I picked it up at new construction up in New London, Connecticut. And after approximately 1 year, we were transferred down to Norfolk, Virginia, where we were stationed for, I spent the next 3 years there. While during that time, fast attacks, we didn't have any kind of set schedule. But we did a few deployments of 3 months in duration and one of 6 months in duration. That one was basically to the Indian Ocean, and ultimately we circled the globe.
You were in a submarine,
That's correct.
and you circled the globe in a submarine.
Mm-hmm.
Was that underwater the whole time?
No, not well. Most of the time, yes, but we went. We spent, I believe, 3 weeks in Diego Garcia, which is a little island.
Diego Garcia.
Diego Garcia,
Sure.
2,000 miles south of the tip of India. All right, not much there. Not much fun either.
Wow.
And then we did have 1 week in Australia to relax. All right, and then after that, we made our way through the Pacific, through the Panama Canal, back to Norfolk.
Wow.
And then after my tour of duty on the USS Jacksonville, I was assigned as a training operator at our training prototype in Windsor, Connecticut, and I was stationed there for 4 years.
So that was your 10 years you wrapped up?
That's correct.
Wow. What exactly did you do while you were on the ship?
I was a nuclear machinist mate, so we were in charge of bringing steam into the engine room, and with the steam, would turn turbine generators that provided electricity to the boat, and also turned our propulsion turbines, which allowed us power to go where we wanted to go.
Wow. Steve, tell me about what your ship did during the war.
Like I said, our carrier was on the line, which was in attack mode for 23 hours a day. And we launched aircraft.
23 hours a day?
23 hours. We fed 23 hours a day. We had launching of aircraft 23 hours a day.
What about the 24th hour?
Well,
You took an hour off?
we, as far as the galley and bake shop, we spent an hour cleaning.
Oh, okay.
But aircraft launched 24 hours a day.
Right.
And except for the times that we would leave the line for an unrep, where we would refuel, get a new way of gas on board, get stores on board, and these would be supplied by supply ships. We would come off the line and rendezvous with the supply ship
Uh-huh.
and have unrep, called an unrep, and we would get everything from basically soup to nuts
Right.
during this period of time. We'd have all hands working to have it wrapped up.
I never thought of that. I just assumed that aircraft carriers, everything flew in. But you tied your ship up to another ship?
We would come alongside a ship, well, I know of one major ship where I left the States to come to Vietnam, and it was the USS Sacramento, which was a brand new ship, and it had oil, ammunition, and cargo, and stores. I went on that ship all the way to the Philippines, and from the Philippines I flew on to the Hancock. But the Sacramento was the first ship when I was on the Hancock that we rendezvoused with.
Mm-hmm.
And as they would come alongside, they would fire what they call shots, line shots, and that would bring across the oil lines and avgas lines. They would hook it up and they would feed avgas to their storage tanks, oil that they needed for propulsion,
Right.
and for everything that worked on the ship. And then they would highline stores across, which were pallets of food.
Right.
And then lastly, they would highline bombs across, the 500-pound bombs.
Uh-huh.
And this is how we were resupplied without really leaving,
Yeah.
the Tonkin Gulf.
I know you were on the ship primarily, well, all the time in the bakery section. But what did you know of the ship's mission? What were the planes doing?
I spent a lot of time when I wasn't on, watch, and I mostly did, I did like from 4 o'clock until 6 in the morning. I would do the baking. After that, I would go up on the flight deck, walk around to operations, go down to the photo lab, and I would talk to people in operations and find out everything. And we would see, I would see the videos that the planes were taking. We had A4 Skyhawks with a light fighter plane.
A4 Skyhawk?
A4 Skyhawk fighters. And then we had the F-8 Crusader, which was a larger bomber type plane. Those were our two basic planes on
Yeah.
our ship. And we had 4 squadrons on board, which was roughly 100 planes. And would sit and watch the recoveries and launches, and it was pretty fascinating how they would work.
Did you lose any planes? Did any bombing missions over in North Vietnam?
During the time I was on board, we lost 3 pilots over North Vietnam. And unfortunately, we lost 2 pilots while we were at sea. One with landing, and one missing the flight deck.
Mm-hmm.
He was all shot up, and we
Oh.
lost him at sea. But one, I was on the flight deck at the time, and it was an A4 Skyhawk. Came down to land. It was a rough sea. They waved him off, but his tail hook caught, and he hit the afterburner on the jet. The plane took off, but the rest of the plane stood on the flight deck. It was like a missile going into the water.
Oh. Mike, you weren't in a war, thank goodness.
No, I served during the Panama-Grenada conflict, but I was literally as far away from that as you could be. On the sub, we did several deployments up into the Arctic. And this was during the Cold War era, so we were doing, for lack of better terms, Cold War games with the Russians.
Games with the Russians?
We would follow them in their different boats and track them, and just in case anything bad happened, you know, we were there first.
You tracked a Russian sub with your sub. How did you know that they were out there?
You could hear them. They were noisier boats than ours
Really?
were. Oh, yeah.
Really? That's interesting. I guess we have to talk about your organizations. Mike, can you start with telling me about the American Legion in Suffolk County?
Sure. The American Legion in Suffolk County has roughly 5,000 members, but we're looking to grow because in Suffolk County there's over 60,000 veterans. There's a lot of veterans out there that we would like to become members. And this year I think is a very exciting time for the American Legion because this year, for the first time in the state of New York's history, we have a female commander, Rena Nessler.
She's the commander of the state?
The state.
Right.
And also, this year is the first time we have a female commander for the entire nation, Valerie Rohan from Wisconsin. So we're looking to get more females involved in the American Legion this year, all right? And all you had to do was serve during a wartime era, and you're eligible to become a member, all right? And not just to grow the American Legion, we're also looking to grow the American Legion family. We have the American Legion, we have the American Legion Ladies Auxiliary, all right? President of that this year, Joan Smith, is doing a great job in Suffolk County. We have the Sons of the American Legion, all right? They're led by Chris Cirillo, and that's open to anybody who's the son of a veteran. And last but not least is our American Legion Riders. The gentleman in charge of the American Legion Riders for Suffolk County is Bruce Blanco, and they are great ambassadors for the American Legion. You see them riding during a mission or an event, you can't miss those American Legion vests with on the back, you know, reading American Legion Riders, and they're just great people, men and women.
Yeah, very good. Steve, how about you?
Well, we're a little bit smaller since we have probably a decreasing size of Vietnam veterans every month. But we've become very active in the last 2 years. One of the big things that we like to wave our flag about is we became partners with the Department of Defense for the 50th commemoration of the Vietnam War. And in conjunction with that, we got a sponsor of the Help Heal Veterans in California, and they have sent us a specially designed photo album scrapbook. And we joined up with the Air Force Association, who does a medal ceremony for Vietnam veterans every month.
Right.
And we celebrate their coming home and we thank them for their service. What we do is they have a medal ceremony, and at the end of the ceremony, they come to the back of the room, and we welcome them home and hand them the special gift and thank them for their service.
The special gift that you give the veterans,
Yes.
you say it's a photo album?
It's a photo album scrapbook, and it's specially designed with a jungle fatigue shirt as the front cover of it, to match the jungle fatigues that we wore in Vietnam.
Right.
And when they see that, I mean, the welcome home line is just enough.
Yeah.
Since we didn't get a welcome home when we came home,
Right.
we're standing there, members of my chapter standing there, 30 members, and welcoming them home, and
Right.
it's just, it brings tears to your eyes.
Yeah. I've been to that ceremony. In fact, we're going to one
Saturday.
this Saturday
Yes.
at the not the Cradle of
American
Aviation.
Armor Museum in
American
Bethpage.
Armor Museum in Bethpage. Yeah.
Yes, and it's pretty fascinating, the American Army Museum, because they just received 10,000 artifacts from a Connecticut
Right.
museum, and we were there when they brought 2 of the tank killers
Right.
to New York, and they'll be at the American Army Museum, plus they have 9,000 some odd other artifacts
Right.
that were donated to the American Army Museum. So
Yeah.
we'll be there this month, and we've been doing, I'm also the commander of the Color Guard for Chapter 82. So we've been doing a lot of events every event for the Air Force Association, and our big one of the year is the Pearl Harbor event at the American Air Power Museum.
What about the Pearl Harbor event?
Pearl Harbor event is held on December 7th. It's called the Dropping of the Roses. Like I said, we're the only, outside of the U.S. Navy Color Guard, we're there every year. We've been there for 10 years. They just to go a little into it, they just received a plaque at the American Air Power Museum from the Air Force Association, and an electro-engraved plaque with a picture of our Color Guard is
Oh,
hanging
really?
on the wall of the Air Power Museum now.
Very good.
But we've had Pearl Harbor survivors welcomed every year, sitting up front, and they're honored. And at the end of the ceremony, they bring out,
Excuse me.
no problem.
This is a very important phone call, I guess. Hello? Oh, Tom. Oh, yes. Oh, excuse me. Tom Swazi's on the phone. Yes, Tom. Yes, Congressman Swazi of the 3rd Congressional District, of course, I know that. Yes, I'm in the middle of a show right now. Yes, I'll tell him, yes. November 12th, yes, at November 12th at 1:30, all right, at the Northport American Legion at 70 Woodside Avenue in Northport. Yes, you're having a Veterans Town Hall. Okay, and who's going to be at the Town Hall, Tom? Fred Skanga from the State Veterans Home out in Stony Brook, yeah. Guillermo Prey, the new director of Northport, will be there. Ralph Esposito and Tom Renane, and also somebody from the New York State Veteran Service Agency. Okay, yes, I'll tell everyone. You're all invited. Yes, I'm just passing this along. I'm sorry. No, yes. Okay, it's November 12th at 1:30 at the Northport American Legion. That's right, 7 Woodside Avenue. Okay, Tom. Yes, I've told them. All right. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. That's the boss. You know, I work for him. I have to take his call
Understandable.
whenever he calls. I hope that's the last time anyone's going to call me today. The camera just said we have 5 minutes to go. Mike, tell me something about the American Legion. You have some programs that you're doing.
The American Legion has this oratorical program where high school students will get up and recite an oration with the basis being the U.S. Constitution.
The U.S. Constitution.
The U.S. Constitution.
That's a very dry subject.
But they do a great job. This year it'll be held at the Russi Bohm Post, I believe the first Saturday at 9 a.m. in January.
Okay.
Last year I believe we had about 12 contestants. And from there they progress on to district, area, and even state competition levels. And at each level they're given scholarship money. And of course, the higher you go, the more money they get. But just to listen to the young men and women give these orations is beautiful. Another program we have is American Legion Boy State, which is eligible to high school juniors. We send them up to SUNY Morrisville for a whole week. And while they're up there, they learn citizenship.
Right.
They actually form their own government.
Right.
And it's a fantastic program.
Yeah.
You have to be in the top 50% academically in your class, but it's open to any high school junior. For those interested, contact your local American Legion post.
Oh yeah, that's very good. Even a post that hasn't sent a student to the Boy State in a while, you can get the post to participate by just sending your student to the post and telling them that you would like to go to Boy State. That's how we did it in Syosset. We never had, we didn't have send a kid to Boy State for a long time. Then last year, two students showed up at our door and said, we'd like to go to Boy State. So we sent the two. Very good, very good. The Boy State is an
Great
excellent
program.
Yeah. How about you, Steve? Any last words?
Well, we've been involved in quite a few events for veterans. One of the last thing we did was in September when Hurricane Harvey hit. Veterans had a picnic in Eisenhower Park.
Right.
So myself and Ralph Esposito came up with an idea, and also Bob Chapone from the Military Order Purple Heart.
Oh,
To,
there's another call. I'm sorry, I have to get this. Let's see. Oh, come on. Okay. Hello. Hello. Bob Lane. Yes, Bob Lane. You're my technical director back there. You're talking about December 3rd, or Pearl Harbor Day for AMVETS. Okay, where is that going to be held, Bob? The National Cemetery in Farmingdale. At what time? 2 o'clock. Okay. That's it? Okay. All right, everyone's welcome to come to the AMVETS Pearl Harbor Day on December 3rd at 2 o'clock. Okay, thank you very much. Take care. Boy, I'm getting these phone calls. I never had them before. Anyway, I cut you off at the last minute, and we have 1 minute to go.
Well, we decided to make a collection for the Hurricane Harvey. And in 3 hours, we raised $5,000.
Very good.
And we turned it over to the governor of Texas to do what they
very
have to
good.
do.
Very
We're also
good.
involved with Vet to Vet program, doing talks at veterans' homes, giving out craft kits, assorted craft kits for veterans of
Very
past
good.
wars. We've been visiting Bristol veterans' homes and
Okay.
taking care of
All
veterans.
right.
That's what we do.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, Ed.
And I hope to see you next month. Watch the show the same time, the same channel, every week. And you have lots of phone numbers to see on the screen. Please take a look.